This is the second part to sig figs. In the previous video, we learned how to count the number of sig figs per a number. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take that knowledge and apply it to everyday math. So, in your math classes, you may have been asked to give the answer to the tenths place or to the ones place or so forth. So you would ask your teacher, what do you want me to round the number to? In this class, when you ask me, what number or what place do you want me to round the number at? First decimal place, second decimal place, or so forth. I will tell you simply to look at the number of sig figs. It will be based on sig figs. Now, when you do math in here, part of your partial credit is getting the sig figs correct. So this is why we have to do this at the beginning of the year. So from this point on, you should be able to do this, and you will have tons of practice with this throughout the semester. So we're going to start with some easy problems here. The hard part is that there's a set of rules for adding and subtracting and a set of rules for multiplying and dividing. You have to be able to keep these rules separate from each other. So, with adding and subtracting, what you're going to do is line up the decimal places. The answer rounded to the same number of decimal places as the value with the least number of decimal places. So that's a lot of words in there. The key thing that you need to highlight, underline, do whatever you need to, is this part right here. When adding and subtracting, you look at the least number of decimal places. Okay, least number of decimal places. So however many numbers are after the decimal. So for example, we're going to add 28.0, 23.542, and 25.64. So if we were to plug that in straight into the calculator, you would get 77.182. Now, if you give me that as an answer for this problem, you would get partial credit, but you would get 1 point off because your sig figs are wrong. So, what do I mean by least number of sig figs? Meaning you're going to go back to your original numbers that were in the problem and look at how many decimal places are in each number. So 28.0 has 1 decimal place. 23.542 has 3. 25.64 has 2. So what is the least amount of decimal places? And that's going to be your 28.0. This means that your final answer can only have 1 decimal place. So that means you're going to chop it off at that 1. Now when you round, and this is probably the part that most students miss is the rounding piece, you simply look at the number right after that to see if it rounds it up or not. So does the 8 round the 1 up? And your answer is yes. So your final answer for complete credit should be 77.2 centimeters. Okay, so with adding and subtracting, you look at the least number of decimal places. So simply look at the numbers, find out which one has the least, and that's what you have to round your final answer to. So decimal places, adding and subtracting. Now we're going to switch gears here to multiplying and dividing. When multiplying and dividing, the answer is rounded so that it has the same number of sig figs as the value with the least number of sig figs. Okay, this is the part that's different, is this ending right here. So with adding and subtracting, the ending is decimal places. With multiplying and dividing, you look at the least number of sig figs. This is why it's important that you know how to count sig figs. So, for example, I'm going to multiply 3.205 times 3.65 times 2.05. If you plug that straight in, you get 23.9814 centimeters cubed. Okay, if you give me that answer, yes, you will get partial credit, but you will not get full credit. So, in order to figure out your final answer, you have to look at the number of sig figs in each of the numbers in your problem. So 3.205 has 4. 3.65 has 3. 2.05 has 3. So looking at how many sig figs are in the numbers that are actually in the problem, you go with the least amount. So this one, the least amount is 3. Right? They both have 3. This means that our final answer is only allowed to have 3 significant figures. So to make this 3 significant figures, you look at the first 3 numbers, chop it off, and see if the 8 does anything to the 9. Does the 8 do anything to the 9? Yes, it makes it a 10. In that case, your final answer would be 24.0 centimeters cubed. Yes, you have to have the 0.0 to get full credit because you're showing me that it's 3 sig figs. Without that 0, you then only have 2 sig figs. So you would also be wrong. Now the last thing, because we're going to have problems that are going to have multiple steps in it. So you do not round off any values until the final answer.